Hello, friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. See the new intro video? Pretty cool, huh? Welcome to... Where is it? Morning Tea with CJ. The show where I browse the web, talk about the latest JavaScript news, and maybe implement something that I find in the latest JavaScript news. If you're watching live, please throw a message in the chat. Let's get started. Welcome, Shalom, to the stream. What does animation in React mean? So interesting note, yeah. So I do have that new intro video, and if you go to coding.garden, you can see it happen. I'm actually using a library called anime.js to do this. All of the flowers are SVGs, and then I'm using anime.js to animate the various parts of the flower. And anime.js, if you haven't heard of it, is really cool. Do stuff like that. Wow. Cool. Hey Kaizen, welcome to the stream. Hey Scott, welcome to the stream. Oh, look at that. Wow. Cool. So if you're new to Morning Tea with CJ, you can visit github.com/codinggarden/morning-tea. Every episode, I will post all of the links to the different things that I discuss, and then also maybe any code that I write. You can see that like in previous episodes where I wrote some code. Let's get started. First news, lightning talks from VueConf are out, and I gave a lightning talk. So I submitted a lightning talk, they accepted it, and I got to give one. So you can check it out. I gave a lightning talk on overview of Vuetify.js. I've used Vuetify quite a bit on this channel, but this is just a short 9-minute video. What is Vuetify? Why should you use it? How do you add it to your application? But there are a ton of other really great lightning talks as well. They're all short, at most like 10-minute talks about various concepts relating to VueJS. So definitely check that out. And I won't forget to add the links. There were the few previous episodes I forgot to add the links for right after the video, but those are all up on GitHub. And from here on out, I am committed to always posting the links immediately after the live stream. Let's say lightning talks are up. Cool. So let's start with r/JavaScript. Hey Joe, welcome to the stream. Yeah, let's start with the self posts. Where to start learning about modern JavaScript. So I've had an idea for a while. I want to do some short videos on modern JavaScript, like fat arrows, template literals, destructuring, object literals, imports and exports, that kind of thing, which I think would be fun to do. Hi guys, I'm a PHP developer for 5 years and I'm using JavaScript often. Usually I'm using jQuery and I've never used pure JavaScript before. Lately I've been using VueJS to make web apps. Nice. And I like it. Now I'm kind of curious how everything is working, and I have the feeling that I don't understand a lot of the things that goes with it. That can happen. I had some students that were brand new to JavaScript, and then after probably a month or two of coding in JavaScript, they got thrown into front-end frameworks, and there's all these new concepts like modules and imports and exports and all this new ES 2015 and ES Next syntax. I want to start digging deeper in JavaScript like npm, frameworks, libraries, tools, and Webpack. My goal, yeah, so I guess they're not just talking about modern features of JavaScript, just like the ecosystem itself. Let's see what people have to say. I'm doing a Udemy course right now by Jonas Schmetman called The Complete JavaScript Course 2018. Ooh. Starts from basics, dives in deeper, and also shows the parallels between ES5 and ES6. Udemy is also having a Mother's Day sale. Ooh, that'd be worth mentioning. So if you're not familiar with Udemy, they have tons of really great courses. I'm probably, I keep saying I'm gonna do all these things. I am. These are my goals for the next month or so. I want to make a Udemy course, maybe on Vue.js, maybe it's on Intro to Programming, but this is a really great site. Tons and tons of really good courses, and pretty often they have sales like this where you can get any course for like $10. So yeah, if you were to choose a Vue.js course on Udemy right now, this would be the one I suggest you choose. It's by Maximilian Schwarzmueller. He has a YouTube channel, I think it's called Academind also, but he gives a really great introduction. It's awesome. Check that out. But they have all kinds of stuff: React, Vue, Angular, Arduino's, Unity, responsive web design, all kinds of stuff. I think, and it's not just programming. They also have stuff for like photography and drawing and stuff like that too. But look, little flowers dancing. That's great. Yeah, they mentioned the complete JavaScript course. Yeah, Kaizen in the chat mentions that Max's course is great. Yeah, let me show you his YouTube channel too, because he has a ton of great content. I think it's Academind, something like that. I spelled it wrong, but this is it. And he actually, if you just want to see his teaching style, if you go to his playlists, he has a Getting Started with VueJS playlist, and I don't know if it's exactly the same content as Udemy, but you can see his style and see if you'd want to invest in a course from him. If you prefer reading your lessons, JavaScript info is really good. This is my break timer. Let's take a quick stretch. Whew. I'm also testing out a new camera setup. Look, my arms aren't cut off. Isn't that great? They're cut off right there. Cool. Also, if you're watching live, is anyone else drinking tea out there? Let me know what you're drinking. Some of you aren't tea people, you're more of coffee people, and that's okay. Let's check out JavaScript info. The modern JavaScript tutorial. How it's done from the basics to advanced topics with simple but detailed explanations. That's a lot of content. And that's only part 1. Cool. Check that out. I wrote an ebook on the new features from ES 2015 to ES 2018. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really have any other suggestions beyond what people have already suggested. Like Udemy is great. Obviously, I like searching YouTube, but yeah, I mean, Eloquent JavaScript is really more of like how to program and talking about the features of JavaScript, but it, as far as I know, it doesn't really go into like the ecosystem and modern features and like how those differ from like older features. Kaizen says he's drinking Pepsi Max. Oh, that's right. It's the evening there in South Africa. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, but if you are learning to program, this is an excellent resource. They, I believe, in the online version actually have, if usually they have, yeah, edit and yeah. So it's a book, but then on any of the examples, you can click on them to start editing them and working with that example, which is pretty cool. It's a great introductory resource. Don't really know if it goes into modern JavaScript. Yeah, and quick plug for Wes-Boss's 30-day course. Basically, 30 different projects to attempt doing to just get better at JavaScript. And this is a really good resource. Like if you know the basics of programming, but you don't know what you should do next or where you should advance, all of these are like really fun projects that you can give a try. Like he'll introduce the project and then you can attempt to do it yourself without watching his video, and then he does like a walkthrough of it. So lots of really cool examples of projects on there. Again, don't know if this is like modern JavaScript. He does use modern JavaScript features, but I've been talking about this link for a very long time. Let's move on. But it's an interesting subject because there haven't been posts about it recently, but in the JavaScript community, there's this phrase or idea of JavaScript fatigue. Basically, there's so much new stuff and it's changing so fast. It's hard to keep up. Cool. I do Backbone.js and I'm ready to move on. Shall I go to React.js and AngularJS? Let's be VueJS evangelists. Let's see if anybody's mentioned Vue. So we have an e-commerce platform that is built using Backbone with Require and handlebars for modularity. Okay, so it's more fueled by job postings. Shalom is drinking ginger ale. Very good. I had a ginger beer last night. So whenever I see job postings in my area, it's dominated by either React or Angular, so I figured this may be the time to move on. I am certain I wasn't the first one. Yeah, so prefer working in React. I switched to Vue about a year ago and haven't looked back. I evaluated the others. React came in second, but I just couldn't get past all the ugliness of JSX. Quick plug, I did do an intro to React video if you are new to React. Talk about what JSX is, and built a simple to-do app, but got kind of beyond like generating an app, working with all the features inside of React, and then breaking it out into separate components. That one is here. But I do myself prefer VueJS, so in that video you can see kind of like my opinions shine. Like I'll be writing it in React and then kind of talking about like the differences between that and Vue. Hey Magneto, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so agenda today, we're just browsing the web this morning. I will mention I don't have a live stream scheduled, but I do plan to live stream this evening. I've been working on this Trello clone, and it's taken me a lot longer than I thought. So I kind of want to finish it because potentially tomorrow I might do a pairing stream with Brooks from Brooks Builds. Oh, not that. Brooks Builds. He's a developer in the Denver area. I worked with him for like a year and a half or so. So check out his channel, but we might pair and build a game together. I'm grabbing lunch with him today. We're going to talk about that, but that might either happen tomorrow. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, it'll happen Thursday. And it actually might not happen Thursday because I have a prior engagement. Regardless, lots of cool stuff upcoming. And if I do decide to stream tonight, I'll throw a tweet on Twitter so you know to tune in. But basically, I want to finish up this app. The first video, we spent probably the first hour implementing auth on the back end, on the front end. So that was great. The second video, I spent like an hour debugging this one auth issue, and then I got somewhat frustrated and ended the stream. But I will finish it soon. Magneto in the chat says, "Have I checked out the new Firestore DB? It looks even better than Firebase." Cool. And that's an interesting thing to mention. So in my stream, I'm using Feathers.js. And you could almost think of like Feathers.js as like your own hosted version of Firebase. Like this runs on your own servers and it runs inside of an Express app and you can customize it to your heart's content. Whereas Firebase is like a database as a service. Like you don't control the server side code. You just pull in their libraries to talk to their real-time database. They have other things. The thing we're talking about is Firebase real-time, because they also have Firebase hosting and Firebase login and Firebase serverless functions, but they also have the real-time database, which basically makes it so that you can have apps that talk to their database and get the data back in real time. But Magneto is mentioning Firestore. I haven't heard of it. DuckDuckGo didn't find it. What about Google? Interesting. Oh, so does it come from the Firebase team? Let's look at this Stack Overflow. What's the difference between Cloud Firestore and Firebase? Google just released, okay, so it is from the same team. Google just released Cloud Firestore, their new document database for apps. I've been reading the documentation, but I don't see a lot of differences between them. So I wrote an entire blog post all about this very question, and I recommend you check it out. If you want a quick summary, it's better querying and more structured data. Cool, and that's true. So if you've ever dealt with Firebase real-time database, it's literally just a JSON object in the cloud. Like, I don't believe they might have validations, but for the most part, you just throw your JSON objects in the cloud and it lives there, and then you can sync with them in real time. But apparently this is for more structured data. Yeah, and Dusan is mentioning there's also Firebase storage. Yeah, the Firebase has like a whole suite of tools, products. It's loading. Cloud Firestore, ML Kit, so they have something for machine learning. Cloud Functions, this would be like similar to AWS Lambda. It's like serverless functions. They have Firebase Auth, hosting, cloud storage, lots of stuff. Okay, I have clicked a lot of links and have not linked to them. So let's do this. And these are all going to go under extra because we didn't find news about it, but it seems really interesting. What is the difference between Cloud, Firestore, and real-time database. So the first one they mentioned is that it is more structured, which is cool. Designed to scale. Will be able to scale better than a real-time database. Easier manual fetching of data. Interesting. So like the real-time database, you can set up listeners in Cloud Firestore to stream in changes in real time. But if you don't want that kind of behavior, you just want to simply fetch my data, Cloud Firestore has that as well. Super interesting, because if you've ever used Firebase real-time, you pretty much have to use their client library to get the data, and it syncs in real time. And this sounds like maybe you could even just do like a fetch request or an AJAX request to get it. Multi-region support, different pricing model. Okay, so it's like the big brother of Firebase real-time database. And so in the chat, Kaizen says he's building a biggest project right now and migrated to Firestore. Very cool. It's really an easy move and easily queryable, also non-relational. Yeah, so, and what they're saying in the chat is Firestore got rid of a lot of the annoying limitations of Firebase, and it's scalable. Sounds great. Maybe we'll build something with it soon. I like it. Let's also link to this. Yeah, and on pretty much every like stream and things that I've built so far, I haven't really used a database as a service. Everything I've done has either been building from scratch, like with a database of your choice and then some database driver and integrating that with Express, or something like Feathers.js, which kind of like does the heavy lifting for you. I will definitely do something pretty soon where I use Firebase or Firestore or something like that, something hosted in the cloud. Cool. We got off on a tangent. we were reading this. I think I want to upvote this guy because he's telling him to use VueJS. So this posting was, I do Backbone.js and I'm ready to move on. Should I go to React or Angular? And we say here on the Coding Garden, go to VueJS. Use whatever works, but VueJS is awesome. Angular is in architect astronaut territory. Too many concepts to master to be productive, too unwieldy, and a moving target that seems to get more abstract and complex with each iteration. So another plug, I've done a video on Intro to TypeScript and Angular 5, and this was a while back. Oh yeah, this one here. And it's crazy how much more you have to do and how much more concepts are involved to create a to-do app that has multiple components and is passing data around. It seems to be very convoluted, like even more convoluted. Not even more. React isn't that convoluted, but if you compare a to-do app built with Vue.js versus a to-do app built with React, Vue is a little more declarative, and then Angular, there's just so much into it. Anthony Lamantina in the chat. So Anthony is Tony from the Newbie Tuesday streams. So thanks for tuning in, Anthony. This stream is sponsored by VueJS. Yeah, the thing is, it's an open source. It's an open source library. Like, I'm not like advertising a company. I don't know. I could be a VueJS evangelist and get paid with pizza or something. I don't know. Okay. I want to make sure that I want to upvote this post. Vue hit the sweet spot, blazing fast, small and easy to learn, well organized but simple component structure. Upvote, sir. It also really depends on how you decide to structure your components in JSX. And Magneto in the chat is saying it's impossible not to love Vue.js. It's like if you've spent any time in the front end framework space and you've built a lot of apps, like Vue.js is a breath of fresh air. I always say Vue.js is like the Angular 2 that never happened. Like Angular 2 went off in some weird direction, and Evan You had an amazing vision. He made this thing. It has a great community. Vue is awesome. I will attempt to not plug Vue as much for the rest of the stream. Sorry. Coming from MVC like CodeIgniter, I hope I can take some of those to Vue. Haven't looked at Vue, but will certainly do that and hopefully help with my decision. Thank you. Awesome. He has not written it off yet. Check out Vue as well. Also a good framework and community driven. Have an upvote, sir. I've heard a lot of good things about Vue. I certainly will give it a try. Yeah, and this person kind of hits the point. So yes, I love Vue. I'm not employed right now. Like, I've been taking a break after my last job, but pretty much every job posting I see is React and maybe a little bit of Angular in the Denver area, which is where I'm based out of. I know VueJS is way more popular in Europe, and Vue.js has gained popularity over the past year here in the USA. But there still aren't a lot of jobs. There are some, but there aren't a lot yet. So only thing with Vue is there isn't much industry desire for Vue, not for the moment anyway. If you're looking to get a front end dev position, might be best going with React. So, yeah. And so I taught at a place called Galvanize. I taught full stack web development, and this is what I would tell my students. Like, I would get up in front of class, and you know me, I love Vue.js, but I would tell them, look, if you look at job postings, people want React. They want people with experience with React. So at this point in time in this area of the world, you might do React, but I get to do whatever I want, so I choose Vue.js. Cool. Here's my recommendation: build a from scratch authenticated homepage on each of React, Angular, and Vue. Do a full login, logout, revoke access, forgot password, etc. Whatever you want until you worked on each for at least a week or two. Then when you're done, choose React. Womp womp. This is a super interesting concept. I want to do this. I want to do this soon. This isn't like my backlog of live stream ideas. Build the same app on the same live stream in vanilla, in React, in Vue, in Angular 5, maybe in Ember, and really just compare them live and all with the same app. This seems to be fairly a lot more complicated. You really would see the limitations of the framework when you start to try and do like routing and revoking routes whenever someone is logged out and redirecting. Yeah. And Magneto is mentioning in the chat, so it is right now, at least in the US, it is tough to find a Vue.js position. But if you're freelance, it's not a problem. Like if you get to choose the stack, definitely. And I have heard a lot that agencies and people doing more projects that are where they it's like a new project and they get to choose the stack, they're choosing Vue because it's really fast for prototyping and it works. I realize I have been talking about this for a very long time, but that's fine. We'll link this. We'll click like one more link or two, probably one. There's not many linked here, and then move on to r/webdev. Oh, I guess I did. No, this is a new one. I do Backbone. It's crazy. Backbone is it's still around, and I guess it might still be supported a little bit, but this must be a pretty legacy project. It's funny to say that because it's probably like 2 or 3 years old, but in JavaScript land, that's old. Kaizen in the chat is mentioning they created a complete Vue.js Webpack progressive web app boilerplate in the company, and when he got employed, which they'll now recruit more devs. Very cool. Okay, let's look at this. Looks interesting. Maybe so. If you've seen the stream before, I have done some web scraping. Let's see Tokyo, a web scraping made simple. It's a new project. It only has 18 stars, but what does it do? This is built on top of JS DOM, which is a JavaScript implementation of the DOM. Cool. You might also like Puppeteer. So bring the package in, tell it the website you want to scrape. Then you will get back your HTML, and then it uses Cheerio inside of it. But what does it do? Like, this literally does nothing more than maybe like a small wrapper on top of fetch, and then it has the Cheerio library inside of it. Let's read the comments, because if you've ever seen me scrape an app, we'll install Cheerio, we'll install node fetch, and you can do maybe 5 or 6 more lines of code, but it does the same thing. There are no comments. Let's look at the source code. Like, what are they doing that makes them so special? I guess maybe the fact that they are using JS DOM, but that doesn't make sense to me why they would be using JS DOM if they are just giving you back the HTML string and then you're just using Cheerio to query it. Let's see. So fetch. So fetching the URL, and then they create a JSON DOM environment. Oh, okay. It's because they're actually executing the scripts on the site. So that's okay. They're doing more than I thought. Because if you use something like node fetch, it just literally grabs the raw HTML of the page that you request. This is actually executing scripts, which might modify the page, which might change how you actually scrape the page. So that's interesting. Okay. Great. I'll link to it. Might not use it. I don't know. Because the only thing is I would want to find a website that uses JavaScript and would be hard to scrape using the method that I usually use. Cool. Let's move on to r/webdev. How to create a search microservice. Let's check it out. An essential part of every application is search, the ability to find terms via the search bar. There are many ways to do it. I've seen it done client-side using a loop or done via full-text indexing in Postgres or MySQL, but there comes the point where you need a separate service for search, and people often reach for Elasticsearch. As far as I know, I believe Elasticsearch is like I want to say big data, maybe not, but essentially a tool for allowing you to search across your API or your file system, and it does like indexing of it. Elasticsearch, the heart of Elastic. Elasticsearch is a distributed, RESTful search and analytics engine capable of solving a growing number of use cases. Cool. So in this post, we'll walk you through how to build a basic search microservice using Golang. Cool. I'm going to skim the article because I don't want to kind of just do it. This could be the thing that I implement at the end of the stream. I don't know. I'd have to get a Go environment set up. I haven't really worked with that on my machine. Thanks, Kaizen. It's super interesting. On chat, I don't know if it is for you guys, but my name is highlighted. I've never seen that before. Cool. Oh yeah, and Kaizen's mentioning the Vuetify video I made. That is by far the most watched live stream that I did. This one here has close to 2,000 views. But yeah, and so in this, I have a working backend, and I have the code where you can pull down a backend, but I just build the entire create, read, update, delete front end using Vue and Vuetify. Cool. Okay. The code doesn't look too hairy. And my only reservation with attempting to implement this is I have to get a Go environment set up. I don't know how long that would take me. All right, we're doing search. Populate Elasticsearch helper. So they're bringing in the Elasticsearch library. They're creating like a user model. Docker configuration. For this system, I choose Docker Compose to link the search microservice to Elasticsearch. That might make things easier. Okay. I will keep this in my back pocket, but there's a lot involved, so I don't know if I want to attempt to do it at the end of the live stream, because for one, I don't know if I have Docker, so I'd have to install Docker. Also, I don't have a Go environment, so I might have to install that. But it seems super interesting and seems like a fun challenge. So maybe at the end of the stream, I'll try to do this. Yeah, let's link to this in extra. All right, let's click one or two more links on r/webdev. I don't mention this, but I actually am looking at the upvotes on the left-hand side. So depending on popularity is kind of the ones that I choose to click. Let's look at this one. Node and Express JWT based auth. Hi guys, are there any resources on how to design a proper authentication backend solution? JSON Web Token based. I saw that many tutorials are no longer using password. Is the usage of password discouraged nowadays? Don't know. Let's take a quick break. I have a new desk set up, so my tea is a little farther out of reach than normal. I'm not drinking it as much. I'm gonna take a longer break. Super interesting. So, I taught backend development with Node.js for like 2.5 years, and for the most part, Passport.js was like the de facto auth solution. I wonder if it has gone out of style. This guy here is an excellent teacher. I did his whole series on Angular auth, which uses JWT. Let's check it out. Angular authentication tutorial. Cool. So I do have a playlist with authentication, but it uses cookies. I definitely want to make a new one that where are we at? This one. So this in this app, we take an existing backend that's Express and then just a front end that's vanilla JavaScript and add authentication and authorization on top of it. But it does use cookies. That said, if you're using JSON Web Tokens, it's just like a slight tweak where you use, wherever you're using cookies, you use JSON Web Tokens instead. This series does give a good overview of just like what is authentication and like what are the steps involved. It is like slightly outdated. I will say that. It says published February 20th. I recorded these probably a year ago though. Cool. So that's a resource. Passport is plugin and go. If you make one yourself, you have to write extra code. Yep. They do the same thing. Yeah, and I guess it's maybe not what they're asking, but Firebase does have their authentication service. You can integrate it with your backend, or if you have a front end app, you can do purely just authorization without your own backend using just their SDK. Authentication. This might not be what they're asking for, though. I believe this does use JSON Web Tokens under the hood, but this is like a full-fledged solution. Like you're essentially just using what they have. If you incorporate it with your backend, you still have to do a little bit of work, but might be a choice. Cool. Interesting thing to think about. I'll throw the link in here, but I should do something on what is JSON Web Token, basic auth flow pretty soon. I have all these grand plans for all these tutorials I'm gonna do, but I will one day. Morning, Brooks. Welcome to the stream. So Brooks, I gave a quick plug for your channel a little bit ago. I'll do it again. YouTube. Check out Brooks Builds. Actually watched Brooks stream on Twitch yesterday. He's building a Twitter vacuum, which I think is essentially just an app that will contact the Twitter API, store as many tweets as possible, and then do some data science, data analytics on it later on. But I think what he's doing is he's streaming on Twitch. So if you go to twitch.com/BrooksZerker, he streams on here, and then he'll upload to YouTube afterwards. Oh, he's hosting Bob Ross. Cool.
Living thing are warm underneath.
Cool. JWT is a thing. Let's move on to r/programming, and then I'll pick something to implement. I haven't really found anything yet. I don't know. Except for that Go thing, but I'm just I'm worried it's gonna take me an hour. I'm gonna have issues with Docker. I'm gonna have issues. Just yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It might be fun. Might be fun to watch me fail miserably live. Okay, build your own X. Build your own insert technology here. Okay. What I cannot create, I do not understand. Richard Feynman. Oh, it's just a link to a bunch of different resources. This is really cool. Build your own 3D renderer, build your own blockchain, build your own bot, build your own database, build your own front-end framework, build your own Docker, build your own game. This is awesome. So I'll preface this with I am not a doomsday prepper. However, I am prepared. And in the event that the entire internet goes down or like the world goes to crap and we need to rebuild from nothing, this would be a great resource. We could essentially recreate or reinvent all the things that we lost, which is pretty cool. Build your own insert technology here. This is awesome. It has 6,000 stars. This would be fun to see, or just to like choose a new project to work on or something like that. An interesting thing though is like they probably have like build your own Linux or build your own operating system. Yeah. There's the Linux from Scratch project. Is it linked on here? It's probably one of these links. But I got a computer science degree, so I took like a systems programming course and like kind of got interested in compilers and like how do operating systems work and stuff like that. But projects like these are purely for just learning how these things actually work. Like you typically would never start to use this operating system that you create. Like that's why we have Windows and the existing Linux and Mac. They're tried and tested and people use them and we have apps that work with them. But to write it from scratch is to really understand like how it's working and what goes into it. And when you're writing an operating system from scratch, you have to write the kernel, you have to write like the file system. It's interesting stuff. Very interesting. Theo de Ra. We didn't chase the fad of using every Intel CPU feature. OpenBSD not affected by CVE. So I think I mentioned it either last episode or the one before it. There was a new critical vulnerability in the Intel architecture. And most operating systems were affected, including the Linux kernel and Windows and OS X. But this is just a funny little post from the people that make OpenBSD. We didn't chase the fad of using every Intel CPU feature. So in OpenBSD, they're not actually using that feature that now has a vulnerability. Tony in the chat. The real question is, when are we getting a machine learning tutorial on Coding Garden? I have been thinking about it. I've been watching a lot of Coding Train, and he's been doing a ton of videos recently, like on TensorFlow.js, and he has like entire series on machine learning. I want to. I definitely want to. Maybe I'll do something with TensorFlow. I have a huge backlog. Basically, I'm just going to be making videos for forever. It's cool. So that's funny. I'll link to that. Oh wait. Yeah, this. A good talk on the JVM JIT internal. So I'm not a Java programmer. The JVM is the Java virtual machine. So if you're interested in that, check it out, r/programming. Rethinking web performance with service workers. It was only submitted 19 minutes ago. But maybe this will have something we can implement. I don't know. Mention in the chat, CJ, I just discovered your channel. I can't thank you enough for all the work you're putting in. I'm going through your Node web scraper project right now. Fantastic. Love to hear it. Thanks for the plug. So if you check out my videos, can we go here? Can we Inception?
Service workers. It's only submitted 19 minutes.
Um, but if you click on my videos, I've done some live streams where I just like figure out how to scrape a website like live on stream. One of the first ones I did was build a web scraper with node.js and this IMDb movie search. So basically, go to the IMDb site, figure out the things I want, and then we figure out how to scrape it. So that's one. And then I also did a Newbie Tuesday episode with Tony, who's in the chat right now. We built a Craigslist scraper. So that was a two-part series. Yes, so we scraped Craigslist postings and then made our own interface where we could like filter out things we didn't want to see anymore and like add favorites and tags. But basically, we scraped their site to get the data and then built our own front end with VueJS to have the features that we wanted. But yeah, I love web scraping. I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's a cool thing. Cool. Close that. Close that. The flowers are still dancing. I found that it's super funny. If you leave this page running long enough, the flowers will get in sync for whatever reason. But when you see the initial animation, when they start dancing, I coded it so that they would be offset a little bit. So like that one's moving in that direction and that one's moving in that direction. But for whatever reason, the longer it runs, eventually they just sync up, which is funny. Okay. Yeah, let's see this article. Maybe it'll have something we can implement. I haven't actually done anything with service workers or web workers on the channel. Rethinking web performance with service workers. This article surveys the current state of the art in page speed optimization through service worker technology. It contains the gist of more than 30 man-years of research that went into SpeedKit, an easy-to-use web performance plugin to accelerate websites. Progressive web app. So if you haven't heard the term progressive web app, basically it is an application that runs well and or maybe actually works if there is no internet connection. It runs well if there's a slow internet connection. It might use some of the native device features that are available, if they're available, like the camera or maybe geolocation or something like that. But a progressive web app essentially it's a progressive enhancement. It gets progressively better depending on the device you're running on or the network that you have access to. And web workers, service workers, are a technology that help with that because they run in the background and they can cache network requests. They can basically cache your site so that if someone is ever offline and they try to go to your site, it will still work, which is pretty cool. Brooks is saying, wish I could send you a URL. Jack Rugile made a game with 3JS. That is really good. Yeah, I'll check it out. If I search for him, is that the Jack from Denver Devs? This is him. What's the name of the game called? Brooks, I'll click on it and check it out. Okay. First part of this article, we motivate our quest for page load times and identify the 3 main web performance bottlenecks. All right. Yeah, so this isn't exactly something that I can implement right now. It's more about like adding to an existing site. Like I wouldn't want to build a site from scratch and then use these features. Not right now. Not right now. Yeah, let me know which game should I click on, Brooks. How fast is fast enough? Cool. And these are super interesting things to think about because a lot of times when you build a web application, like you're not thinking about you're assuming that they have a high speed, high bandwidth connection, and they have a device that has like 1080p resolution. But you're forgetting about all the people that live in rural areas, all the people that live in third world countries, all the people that can't afford devices with that type of resolution. So when you're building a progressive web app, you're taking all of that into consideration. So you're building apps that work for anyone, no matter what they have. Cool. I'll finish this article and then I'll check out that game. High bandwidth is not enough. We need to reduce latency. Cool. This chart says page load time as bandwidth increases. So That's super interesting. It's interesting how it flattens out. Like the faster your connection gets, the page load time is um, essentially the same because of latency. But as you decrease latency, page load time goes less and less. What makes a website slow? High latency, slow rendering, process overhead. So like your backend has to do a lot of processing, or they're running on a device that can't render your site very well, or you're accessing a server that's in a totally another country. This is great. I'm not going to go over this entire article, but this is awesome. Lots of really good info in there. It's probably the best breakdown I've seen. Let's take a quick stretch. Whew. And this is rethinking web performance with service workers. Actually, before I move on, where do they talk about service workers? To learn more about service workers, okay, so this is they talk about you use them to accelerate your website. Cool. That's great. All right, let's check out this game that Brooks is mentioning. So first, he mentioned it's a Ludum Dare game from Ludum Dare 41. Ludum Dare. And if you haven't heard of this, it's a game dev jam. It's not exactly a competition. I think there's a competition in there somewhere, but it's a jam. It's basically like a challenge to people. You're given X amount of time. Here's a theme. Implement a game. And lots of people will live stream themselves coding it on Twitch. Did you create a game this year, Brooks? If you created a game, let me know. I'll link to it. I know that Brooks has participated quite a few times and streamed himself on Twitch doing it. But this year's theme was 2 incompatible game genres. And they created like a mashup generator. This might be fun just to do, like, the competition is over. It only lasts a set amount of time, and there are various rules, like, I don't know, I won't get into the rules, but it's a game jam that happens. I think they do it twice a year. Yeah, maybe 3 times a year. Yeah, so Ludum Dare 41 just happened. In August is Ludum Dare 42, and then in December will be number 43. But you can mash up genres. Basketball fighting game. Basketball breakout. Racing flight simulator. It keeps moving. Why is it moving? Okay. Brooks is saying he did not create a game this year. I should compete like next time. It'd be fun to live stream myself doing it on the channel here. He says he gave me a link as an issue on Morning Tea. Let's check it out. Jack Rugile's game. Let's see it. Lost Without You is a turn-based action puzzler. Help 2 friends find each other in the dark before they run out of light. Ooh, sounds fun. It looks cool too. Alternate between each friend to navigate through the darkness in a mysterious labyrinth. Can you help them rescue? Can you help them escape? Sorry. My girlfriend and I, Nicole, had a great time making this game together. We put our own spin on a few genres combined together and took over our own meaning of the phrase turn-based. I'm curious, what genres did they combine? Let's see their website. Okay. Are we ready to play? Is there sound, Brooks? I guess I'll figure that out. If there is, I think I might play it through my speakers and mute it over there because it would be out of sync. All right, let's play the game. Wait. Let me make sure that the audio is not coming through. Okay. Whoa. It's so dark. Okay, you might be able to hear the sound a little bit. Okay, so, ooh, interesting. This honestly though, like it's super simple. Okay, it's switching between the two players. So okay. I think I get the dynamic now. So like the camera will switch between the two players, and then you have to navigate them to find the light to stay lit up. And I'm guessing it's randomly switches between the two characters. Okay, let's try again. Click anywhere to continue. Okay. What is this place? It's so dark. Okay, so got some light. Got some light there. I see more light here. Dead end. Okay. Oh, they have to find each other. Is that what it is? Yes! Mary and Zoe were able to find their way out. Level 1 complete. Sweet. I'm scared. Ooh, I think I went to a dead end with Zoe. Oh, is that her already? Oh, it's a dead end though. Ah! Oh no, she's running out of light. Oh, got one. Oh, Zoe's about to die. Is that a dead end? Oh. Okay, that is super fun, and I love the graphics. Like it's blocky, yet like the light coming off of the squares looks really cool. Yeah, this is awesome. Do you know, Brooks? Is there a winner for Ludum Dare, or is it purely just a jam? Actually, let's look at the rules real quick, because I believe for the most part it's a jam, and then they do have a competition that you can enter into, but you don't have to. Like the main idea is to just promote learning and making games, and it's not mostly a competition. So this year's statistics: 3,000 people submitted a game, lots of different entries, and cool. Let's look at the rules. So the jam is an event for anyone, teams, individuals, anyone that wants to make a game. So you have to create the game in 72 hours. That's one of the keys here. Is like it's time boxed. You can pretty much use anything, and yeah, you can use pre-existing assets and stuff like that. And then there's also the compo, which is hard mode. So you have to work alone. You have to create all of the content. So you have to create the music, the art, the sound. You can't use like pre-existing assets. And they are reviewed. So, oh, I see. So Brooks in the chat is saying every game is voted on for different categories. So you submit to a specific category, and then the community will vote on it. Cool. Yeah, that's great. I will mark my calendar. Next Ludum Dare, I will compete, and I will stream myself doing it, which will be fun. Okay. So let's see, how long have I been streaming? I've been streaming close to an hour. I haven't really found anything that I can try or implement. Let's just go back to r/JavaScript real quick. Maybe there's a library that I could install and use real quick. I mean, we could do Tokyo. No, but new news submitted a minute ago. There's a vulnerability in Electron, node integration bypass. Ooh, let's check it out. A few weeks ago, I came across a vulnerability that affected all current versions of Electron. The vulnerability allowed node integration to be re-enabled, leading to the potential for remote code execution. So, if you're not familiar with Electron, it is a Chromium browser that has access to a node environment. So you can use pretty much any node module published on the NPM repository. When you package and ship your app, it's very important that new scripts aren't allowed to be downloaded because they have access to the operating system. If some malicious script were to get downloaded, it could do very bad things. And what this is saying is they're able to re-enable node integration, and remote code execution, meaning they would essentially get like a remote shell into your computer and send it commands to execute that code. Meaning they could download all the files on your computer or erase your hard drive or other things like that. So this is very serious. Hey Andy, welcome to the stream. It's been a while. Welcome. Been a while since you've been in the chat. Not sure if you've been watching live, but welcome back. Yeah, so Electron applications are essentially web applications. Yeah, and kind of just what I just mentioned, like because we're running in a node environment, cross-site scripting where someone executes some unknown script on your site somehow, if your site is vulnerable to that, is very bad in Electron because it has access to the full operating system. You can remove access to node.js by passing node integration false into your web application's web preferences. There's also a web view tag, which allows you to embed content. Okay. That's awesome. Andy says he's staying busy. It's very important in these times. I don't know what times, but stay busy. Cool. I won't go into the details. Check this out. This is super interesting. Oh, it was published 2 days ago, so it's not totally new news. But it's not a good thing when a platform has vulnerabilities like that, because this affects all of the existing Electron apps, and if people were to do this, they could do some pretty malicious stuff. Cool, because, I mean, one thing to mention, VS Code is running on Electron, Atom is running on Electron, so, and those are installed on, I don't know the numbers, millions, hundreds of thousands of computers. So if they got compromised, that's a lot of people. Okay. Like I said, I've been streaming. I haven't found really anything to implement. Here's what I'll do. Randomly, I decided, I think night before last, to make tic-tac-toe. I'll just show that game real quick. And then last night, I decided to make Snake. But the thing is, I'm not using any game engine, and I'm not using Canvas. So I thought it'd be interesting to try to implement a lot of like the basic games that you see out there in tutorials, but using pure DOM manipulation, meaning no Canvas, and just using what we know about the DOM to create elements and change their contents for a game. So let me show that real quick. That'll be fun to see. Oh yeah, Slack. So in the chat they're mentioning Slack uses Electron, WhatsApp uses, the desktop app uses Electron. A lot of things are based on Electron. So let's go up one more directory. Let's go into tic-tac-toe. Let's see my awesome tic-tac-toe game. Look at that. It's also very responsive. Woo! So you do that, and then it declares a winner, and then you can reset the game. So I built this just for fun. Like, it probably took me like 20 or 30 minutes. I think it'd be cool to do a stream where I actually build this live. Let's look at the code real quick. Oh, Discord is an Electron app. There are a lot out there, yeah. You all should stop putting them in the chat. It's scaring me. I'm getting scared. Cool. And so I sort of took somewhat of a state management pattern. So like the HTML is super basic. Like the section here is where the game board is. And then I have this function new game. And this is kind of like your game state. So who is the current player? Who is a winner? And then like what is the state of the game board? And yes, so I build the board and then have a nice little click function that whoever the current player is, that'll be the contents of the board. Every time it clicks, we check a win. We know there's a win if there are horizontal rows. And actually, this is one thing that I wanted to clean up the code for. So this looks at the game state to see if any of the horizontal rows are filled with the same value. If there are, there's a winner. This looks at all the columns to see if there's a winner, and then this looks at the two possible diagonals, and it sets the winner. So super basic code, but it's all DOM manipulation. And then one I built last night is snake vanilla.js. And actually, yeah, I have it so you can change the frame rate. It's so hard when it's going this fast. There you go. But you can change the frame rate. You can change the grid size. There you go. It's super hard. Okay. I implemented like a basic game engine, so I have like a no loop function which will stop the game loop from running. And then I think you can do start. Will that reset the game? Nope, keeps going. Cool. Let's look at the code. Question in the chat. I think this is in regard to like the Electron vulnerability that I was talking about. Is it just Windows versions or other OS apps too? We'd have to look at it, but I think it affects anything because Electron itself is the platform, and then when it builds for different environments, it's essentially just using a different build of Node and a different build of Chromium for those specific environments. But if the vulnerability is in Electron itself, my guess is it's cross-platform. Don't know though. Brooks has an interesting idea. For the code section, how about a link share where we can share links with you? That'd be great. And also code snippets, because a lot of time in the chat, people want to share a link with me or share like some code that they're writing with me. And YouTube chat doesn't let you share links. Honestly though, I thought I have it enabled in settings. I think it just disables it for security reasons. But that would be really cool. Like an app where you could go, you could post links, I could see them pop up in real time. You can post your code, I could see it in a cool little editor and it would be formatted. That is a great idea, Brooks. I will definitely add that to the backlog. Okay, let's look at my code for Snake. And actually, before we do that, let's change the frame rate to go a little bit slower. And then if we look at the game, we can affect the number of rows and columns. So if I just do like 10 rows and 10 columns, now it's a much slower Snake game. I can close the console. It's going a lot slower. Let's make it a little bit faster. 5. There we go. And I didn't implement like if you collide with your tail you die. I didn't do that yet, but it's pretty basic. But I guess the interesting thing about this is it's not using canvas. So like every square cell you see on the screen there is literally just a div with a weird things are happening. Just a div with like a cell class. And in the setup function, we look at state to decide like how many rows and columns. And I'm using Flexbox to make every cell have the same width and height. This is another bug. The apple sometimes appears inside of the snake. Cool. But I want to do this on a live stream soon. But here's the idea. So first you have your game engine. It gives you a start function where you can start is where you actually like start up the game, and every game engine has a loop. Basically, it will do some logic, and then you have your draw method, which actually updates the screen. So one thing I'm doing inside of the engine is on every tick of the game, I clear out every single cell. So it's just totally empty. And then the game logic decides like where should we redraw the snake and where should we draw the apple. And then the engine here will always set the apple as red just in case your code accidentally overwrites it or something like that. And then we have the loop function, which accepts the game state, and the draw function. And then the other thing was I decided to make a few like DOM helpers. So one thing I did was make this selector class. So it basically is a wrapper around document.querySelectorAll. So it behaves a little bit more like jQuery. It's by no means, this was just a few lines of code, but one thing it does is to any element, it'll add the on property. So instead of having to do .add event listener, you can just do .on and it works in the same way. And then the other thing is if you do a selection of multiple elements, I make it so that if you set the style on on the collection, it applies it to all of the selected elements, which doesn't happen with raw DOM manipulation, which is typically why you might use something like jQuery. And the other thing is, if you want to do an event, you can specify it on the collection, and it automatically adds that event listener to all of the things in the collection too. So that's super basic. And then I created this little function called create that takes in a tag and a parent, and then creates the element, and then appends that element to the parent. Cool. And then we'll look at also made like one JS helper. I just decided to get like super modular with my code. Like I was doing things over and over again, so like let's extract more. But this is a super basic function. It behaves almost like a for each, but instead of giving it an array, you give it a number to go up to, and it will call your callback function with the index up to that number. So like in the game where I'm setting up the cells, I say up to state.rows, and inside of that up to state.column. So this is like a nested for loop essentially, but we get to use like this callback fashion. Let's take a quick break. I sort of apologize for not implementing something live on stream. I also don't sort of apologize. I didn't really find anything that I could this time. But I made this last night randomly and thought it'd be fun to show. I will build something like this live on stream pretty soon. And again, main idea is like not using a game engine, just using what we know about programming and using what we know about DOM manipulation to make it happen in the browser. So I have this state object. You can specify the number of rows and columns for your grid. You have x velocity and y velocity. And so that is on every game tick, how much in which direction should you move? This can be either -1, 0, or 1. If it's -1, it's going backwards. If it's +1, it's going forwards. Same with up and down. And then the snake has a location, a length, and then the trail, which is the thing that will follow it behind. A simple little helper function, which will get a specific cell. So when I create the cells, I give them data attributes that are row and column. So if you want a specific access to a specific cell, you can just do a multiple attribute selector that says, give me the cell that has this row and this column. And simple click event handler to decide what happens when you press the arrow keys. So when you press the arrow keys, it changes either x or y velocity. And then a simple little function to place a new apple. And this is where I need to update my logic, because right now, and you'll notice he's chasing his own tail, but he's not dying. Right now, let me refresh. It's possible that the apple will appear inside of the snake, and that shouldn't happen. So I need to update my apple placement to take into account where the snake is and not make the apple show up there. And like I said, I also need to implement collision with the tail. And then two little functions, update x based on the current velocity. This is nice little logic that actually wraps it back around the screen. So like when it reaches the final column, it puts it back at 0, or when it reaches the final row, it puts it back at 0. And game loop, pretty simple. Find the apple on the page, and this is the collision logic. Super simple. So if the current head of the snake is at the same location as the apple, we have found the apple, increase the snake length, put a new apple on the page, and then the trail array is where we're keeping track of like where the snake was. So we push the current location of the snake into that array. And then we're also keeping track of the length. So this was probably the thing I had the hardest time figuring out, is like how do you get that trail to like stay where it was? And essentially we just have an array of previous locations, and we're drawing those, but we're also always removing the last one if the tail isn't that long. So it's essentially just pushing the current location into that array, and then it keeps redrawing it, but then it keeps clipping the last one off of the array when on every iteration of the game loop. So if the length of the tail is length of the array is greater than the current snake length, just take the first one off, so that the last place disappears. And and then update the location. And then our draw function, this is the thing that's happening on every iteration. So on every iteration, we go over the tail or the trail. We get the sail value for every tail and then set its background to blue. And then we get the head of the snake and set its background to lime. And that's it. So this function draw and this function loop just happen over and over and over and over and over again to make this little snake game in the DOM. Cool. I realize this is not JavaScript news, but I just randomly decided to make it last night, so thought I'd share it. I will definitely I'll post the code for this somewhere, but like I said, I do want to do like a quick live stream where I build something like this on live stream. And you can see me refactor it in real time. You can see where my head's at in terms of like how to organize code and stuff like that. Cool. I think that is it for coding. Morning tea with CJ. Coding Garden today. Thanks everyone for watching. I believe we had quite a few concurrent viewers. Lots of people in the chat. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new to the channel, check out coding.garden. You can see my full live streaming schedule and this awesome animation that I made yesterday. And I have a scheduled stream for tomorrow at 8:20 p.m. This might be building a game with Brooks. I'm actually about to go have lunch with him. We're going to chat about that. Might be Monday, probably not Thursday, maybe the following Monday, but tonight, I do plan on actually doing an unscheduled live stream where I attempt to finish up the Trello clone that I've been building. So the past two full live streams were me building an app with Vuetify, Feathers.js, and Mongoose. And so I built the I started working on it, and I spent a lot of time working on auth, but we're pretty much past all of those issues, and now it's really just implementing some of the real-time features. So I plan on finishing that up tonight, and then I will have a live stream tomorrow as well. If you want to get notified of when I will be going live, you can follow me on Twitter. And quick note, I took the Pluralsight IQ test, which, I don't know, I have some issues with, but I did score expert, so I'm in the 99th percentile of other people that took this JavaScript test and also the Node.js course, or Node.js test. My biggest complaint, especially with the Node.js one, there's all these questions of like about specific libraries, and I don't think you should be judged on your Node.js knowledge by what libraries you know and like what docs you've memorized. Like the JavaScript one, I had some issues with it, but for the most part, it was like features of the language, read this code block, what should it actually execute? And that made sense. One thing I didn't agree with was it asked me, what is the order of the parameters passed into the date constructor? Why the hell would I memorize that? Like, anytime I need that, I'm going to go to MDN to see what the parameters are, or my editor will tell me what they are. So it's super interesting. One thing is, so there's those two there. I didn't post my score for the HTML5 one, but that one is super interesting because it just reminds you of all the things you don't know about, like things to look into, things to check out. Brooks is mentioning in the chat, yeah, so if you're in the Denver area, the Node.js meetup is this Thursday. And do you stream that live, Brooks? I believe you have in the past. So if you're anywhere else in the world, you can actually tune in live also. Ooh, there's going to be a talk on Node.js and the Internet of Things by Taylor Romero, head of technology for Spruce. Very cool. And I do believe Brooks streams these either on Twitch or on his Brooks Builds channel. I think some of his past videos. But if you're interested in that, I'll get the someone buy me a ticket. It's actually free. Yeah, there are a ton of tech meetups in the Denver area. Like I run the VueJS meetup. Actually, okay, I believe the 28th is our next meetup. There's the Denver script meetup. I gave a talk at that at the last one. There's a ton of free meetups to just get together, hang out with other coders. But yeah, Brooks, let me know where you're streaming it, and I'll share it on my channel for sure, so other people can check it out remotely if they're not there live. Yeah, here's like the last one that happened. This was on Building APIs Quicker by James Gibson. The mic does cut out, but if you can, he does have slides, so if you can get through that, it's a really good talk. It just talks about really best practices with Node and different packages you can use, and it's a great talk, so check that out. But yeah, if you're streaming it, give me the link. I'll share it with everybody so they can tune in remotely. I believe that's it for Coding Garden with CJ, Morning Tea with CJ. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This was a great time. I will push up all of the links to this repo, so if you want to check out anything that I showed in the stream, you can click on that. I believe that's it. Thanks everyone. I'll see you next time. I'm going to play the intro music for the outro. Here we go.